Welcome everyone to episode 17 of Raw Sport. Today we have a very, very big show ahead of us. Mr. Tony Sheehan, how are you, buddy? How's things?
Morning, Ahmed. Another big show awaits, and we can't wait to get stuck into our next guest.
We've got a very special guest today, Mr. Lukey Power, three-time Premiership player, 282 games for the Lions and 20 games for the GWS Giants. Lukey, welcome to the show, buddy. How are you?
Welcome, Lukey.
Thanks for having me, Ahmed and Tony. Really appreciate it. I've been wanting to come on this for a long time.
Well, you join esteemed people from the AFL world, including Anthony Koutoufides and Corey McKernan. So it's an esteemed list, Luke.
Very good players. Good people too. Cooter's around the club a bit. I'm at Carlton Footy Club. Cooter comes in a bit. So it's always good to see past champions of the game.
Now, it's unfortunate that Carlton's season ended prematurely. I'm sure, Carlton was vying for a place of the AFL Premiership this year and just missed out. But why would you still be at Icon Park today?
So currently, after losing on Saturday, Arvo in the prelim, we're back into it pretty quickly. We have to do the exits for all the players. So basically what that involves is giving them holiday programs, or off-season programs, getting an understanding of what they're up to, giving them a review of their individual season and what they need to work on going forward to improve themselves and to improve us as a team. There's also the unenviable task of telling players that they're no longer required at the club, which is always hard, but mainly positive. And over the next couple of weeks, we'll review our program. We'll look to get better, and hopefully it can take us to higher levels next year.
Well, we wish you all the best with that. But the real reason we got you on this morning is you're a three-time Premiership star with the Brisbane Lions. Take us back to 2002 when you were, I think, a 23-year-old entering the biggest week of your life.
A long time ago now, 20 years. I think it's 20 years since we won our 2003 Premiership, which was our third one. Amazing times and just really privileged and grateful, to have been part of such a driven group. It was a fantastic time in Brisbane. Obviously, similar to the current Brisbane side, connection and belonging such an important thing. And I think because most of our players came from different parts of Australia to settle in Brisbane and play together, it made us a lot closer than other groups of players because we spent so much time with each other, because we became like family for each other in Brisbane, not knowing a lot of people. Also, I think we had a massive advantage in having Lee Matthews as our coach, who'd had so much experience and exposure to these situations before, and to finals footy, and to how to prepare, and a lot of his messaging and a lot of his thoughts and ideas on how to approach the week and how to prepare ourselves was really important in being able to calm us and get us to be able to focus on what we needed to.
What do you remember of actually starting the week? I mean, you're a Victorian boy. You grew up in Baldwin. You went to school in Melbourne, and then was drafted to the Lions as I think a 17-year-old. Did it make it any easier, you coming back to Melbourne, playing in what would be one of the biggest games of your life?
Oh, look, it's not hard to get up for a grand final in front of 95,000 at the MCG. So,
no, but in terms of the entire week.
In terms of the entire week, I mean, I think the first thing was, and this is where Lee's experience came into it so much. After we won the prelim, we'd get all the players and all the families in together. And I reckon that the important message early in the week was for us to delegate to someone to take control of all the incidentals and all the admin. So the tickets that your family required, nominate one person so that you're not having to communicate and waste your energy on things that aren't going to help your performance. So the way that Lee set us up with strategies to be able to work our way through the week, all in order to get the most out of our performance and out of our football on game day was pivotal to our success.
Ahmed?
Awesome. Lukey, take us back to that experience of playing in your first one. What was it like? I mean, you guys played you played in probably one of the best teams to ever play the game, arguably, obviously. How was it fighting for your position into the team, playing out the season, the pressure of being in such a great team? Take us through that as a young man coming through the ranks.
No, it's a really good question. Obviously, I probably talked about how connected we were as a side and a group of players. We had a massive belief in the people that we had around us and the program that Lee had put together in terms of the staff and who we had there and the resources that we had. So, we always felt that we were really well prepared individually. I'd had a pretty up and down year. I remember I had some really, really bad groin issues after playing international rules the year before as a 20-year-old. I came back and had groin issues, and I reckon a bit of it was from kicking the heavy ball around the corner and just doing something different in terms of that mechanism. So I got back, missed a couple throughout the year due to injury, and then got to the halfway mark of the year and tore my adductor off the bone. Went and saw a couple of surgeons in Melbourne. Bum was pretty keen to operate straight away, which means that I would have been out for the remainder of the year. And I saw one surgeon who and I had mum and dad with me, so it became pretty important. Who said if this was my son, I wouldn't operate. So that was the deal breaker. Guy by the name of Peter Wilson, and in the end, his decision to go down the natural path of healing and be able to do it that way got me back before the finals, and I guess the position that I played in the team and the role that I was able to play, because Lee was so big into players being able to play their role for the team, which is such a prevalent part of the AFL game nowadays across the various positions, was probably what got me back into the team. Unfortunately, it went from there. It came in a few weeks before the finals, and probably added to the team in a role that we probably didn't have a lot of depth in. So, you make your own luck, but just fortunate to have been part of it, and then to follow on from there and have sustained success was really special.
Lee Matthews was regarded as one of the greatest players to ever play the game. Then he coached one of the greatest teams. What would you say are three of the biggest lessons you learned playing under Lee Matthews?
There's so many. There were so many. I'll tell you a funny story first. We're actually after the 2003 final, we're in a service elevator, so I reckon the whole team was in there. And Justin Leppich, who's an assistant coach at Collingwood currently, we're preparing for the grand final now. Was a bit of a prankster, and he actually shot to Lee and gave him a bit of lip and said, "Without us, Lee, you'd be nothing." And Lee, without even blinking, said, "You're right, Justin. Without you guys, I'd only be the greatest player of all time." So that was one of the great Premiership stories. Whenever I hear he's the greatest player of all time, it always comes into my mind. But no doubt he was a great manager of people through his experience, as I said, from being in there, being there in the past was just so valuable to us on how to prepare and mindset's a massive part of footy nowadays. How to prepare our minds for the game and how to give ourselves every opportunity to perform on the big day. It's funny, at the end of my career, I probably was looking for a new influence in terms of coaching, and Lee had coached me for a long time, and probably didn't take until I started coaching and becoming a father exactly how much I'd learnt from him, not only about football but also the lessons that he taught me about life. So there were just so many. It's probably hard to go through them all here, but just his calmness, his ability to make the complicated sound simple, and also his telling us that we needed to put ourselves and play a role for the team. I think a lot of what he talked about was ahead of his time.
Now, sorry, Luke, speaking of preparation, it's a nice little segue into the next question. Can you give us some insight that the current Brisbane Lions team, of the 22 playing on Saturday, might need from a former champion such as yourself? What advice would you impart on the current playing group?
Probably the advice that I'd impart on the current playing group is not to listen to past players, and seriously, like to be able to listen to those that are around them and the experts that they've got, like their staff, would have a lot of experience in this area. They've got senior players there, who know what they're doing. So it's to keep their preparation as consistent as possible in terms of that. Obviously there are a lot of things that go into it around travel and flying, and some tricks of the trade around how you get around those things. But it's to keep as relaxed and as consistent as possible with your preparation and part of that. That not too many have rang me up and asked me for advice over the last 24 home and away plus finals games. So, so they're probably not ringing me for advice when it comes to the big game, because they've got some really good people around them who are supporting them through that.
Absolutely. Lukey, in today's world, I mean, now your day-to-day is you're pretty much dealing with younger players and developing them and so on. What would you say are the greatest obstacles these players are facing, and how different is it to when you were coming through the system?
That's a great question. Does he ask good questions, Tony?
Yeah, well, he's got a very good teacher.
I know why you've got him. What was the question, mate? No, I've actually forgotten the question now.
So pretty much, we'll break it down. Well, what would you say that in modern day football, the young talent coming through and learning the game, right?
Yeah.
What would you say are their greatest obstacles?
Probably there's a couple of obstacles that are probably similar to when we were playing.
Yeah.
And that's just who they're listening to and how many masters they have. It's really important, that they're listening and taking advice from the staff and the coaching staff, etc. At the club, because at the end of the day, they're the people that are making decisions on them, and they're the people that have their best interests at heart. There are a lot of people who do get involved in their football. Obviously, there's family, player managers, friends. They have mentors in various areas, and it's just being able to filter the information that you're getting. But at the end of the day, you need to be clear and you need to be listening and actioning, what the people who are making the decisions on you are saying. The one that's a little bit different from me, which I find hard with our young players, and we generally have to get a lot of people in to educate them on this, is social media. It's just gone to unprecedented levels, over the past few years with technology becoming so big. And, whilst these kids have lived their whole life, with social media that are coming through nowadays, it still is very absorbing, and the amount of information that's coming out, and everyone's ability to be able to contact and put their ideas and thoughts through, it can become very consuming. So, they have to definitely have strategies around how they manage that. And, they need people in their lives, to be able to support them with that.
Awesome. So you would say from the time you come through the system until now, the biggest difference is social media pretty much, and all these.
Oh, massive, because I mean, you've got to look at what's real and what's not real. So what's real is the coach who's making the decision on you, giving you feedback about your game and telling you that you need to action these things and you need to work on these things, to have a really long career at the level. In the past, we only had that influence. Yes, we had other people who were in our ears, but we had to be able to filter that. And at the end of the day, it came back to for me, to what Lee was saying, because his commentary about my game was the most important, because at the end of the day, he was making a decision on whether I was, in his squad and in his team or not. Now they're getting a lot of information from a lot of other sources, and it's all there for them, so they can all see it. They've got people that are bringing it to their attention.
Lounge room experts, yeah.
It can become a massive distraction, and there's a lot of scrutiny. So, as I said, they need to be able to be really strong and in filtering, what's important to them and what isn't. And definitely grand final week. I remember one of Lee's saying was be the boy in the bubble. And when you're in the bubble, you have control of what comes in, and you have control of what goes out. So it's important in what you have control over. You have control over actioning what your coach says. You don't have control over what people are saying about you on social media and how they feel about you.
Yeah, but Luke, in addition to that, not only is social media so absorbing, as you've described, but it's also as much as being able to put your mobile phone down.
It definitely is. And in saying that, Tony, and you've come from, a big media family yourself, so you know a lot about the media. It's a necessary evil, right? Like the reason that our players, are looked after so well by the game now, and I've been fortunate to have made a living off the game too, and the game's given me a lot, is because of the exposure that the media generates. So it's definitely necessary. It's just up to the players to be able to control, what they're taking from it and what they're not and what they're leaving behind.
Absolutely. I have a question for you. This one's a bit, I hope not too tough. You played in a team, arguably, probably had the best players in each position for multiple years, and so that would mean lots of egos, lots of stars. You know what I mean? From what you saw, I mean, obviously you were the coach. How do you think Lee managed that? Like, because in today's world, if you look at some of these soccer teams and any team that's got too many stars, it's a recipe for disaster. And to manage him for 3 years to win 3 different flags, mate, he should win a Nobel Prize.
It's pretty simple, Armin. Lee was able to manage it because he had the biggest ego of all of them. In all honesty, we had a lot of strong personalities, and you'd see that now from the amount of AFL coaches from our team that are coaching. So Bossy, Craig McRae,
the Scots,
Brad and Chris Scott, and a lot of our players are also in senior positions. Justin Lepich, Nigel Lappin, at various clubs. So yes, we definitely had, and a lot in the media too with Jonathan
Simon
Brown,
Black,
Alistair Lynch, Simon Black. Excuse me, I've just dropped my earpiece.
Johnson as well.
Chris Johnson. Yep.
So
gets a few stints in the media.
A lot of really strong personalities, but obviously with Lee's background, such a great player of the game and great figurehead of the game. He was the perfect man to be able to manage it and bring everyone together and communicate with everyone on the role that they needed to play for our team to have success. And I remember vividly, and it was actually out the back here at Icon Park. In 2001, we had a game down here against Carlton, and Carlton had a lot of great players at the time: Koutafidis and Ratton, Camporelli, Bradley, Silvani. They had great players across every line, and they gave us a bit of a hammering. And off the back of it, we walked into the review meeting the following week, and up on the board, it wasn't those names that were written up. It was Franchina, it was Hume, it was Freeborn, and Lee's
Scotty Freeborn.
And yes, and Lee's messaging was around, what are these players? Who are these players? And basically, the message was that these were the role players in the team. And his line was that if we didn't submit ourselves to the team, then we were going to miss out. We understood we had a lot of talent, but at that stage, we had a lot of guys who were big personalities who probably wanted to be the best player in the team. And off the back of it, his big phrase was coined, which was know your role, accept your role, play your role. So, which
Wow.
was a massive part of our success going forward.
So the catalyst for Brisbane's 3 premierships are Darren Hume, Anthony Franchina, and Scott Freeborn.
Scott Freeborn got a mention yesterday, actually, on social media. He's having a great week. We haven't heard of him in 20 years, and all of a sudden this week he's getting mentions everywhere.
No doubt.
Yeah.
They were the catalyst, not saucing those blokes for sure.
Hey, now, Lukey, that was a great insight. Now, we want to pick your brain about Saturday. Now, obviously, in the lead up, Collingwood and Brisbane have had fantastic seasons, but a lot of people would be maybe reluctant to jump on the Pies bandwagon if you're a betting man, because they've lost to Brisbane twice this year in Melbourne.
They have. So, to put it in context, I think Brisbane.
Sorry. I'll rephrase that. They lost to them twice, once at the Gabba and once at Marvel.
Yeah, once at the Gabba. So I think Brisbane are the more talented football side. To put that out there, the unknown is how Brisbane go at the MCG. So Collingwood have played a lot of football there. They understand the ground. They've had success there, and both teams are pretty even. I think one's won 18 games home and away. One won 17. So they're pretty even on paper. I think Brisbane's forward line have the potential, to be able to do a lot more damage than Collingwood's. But the unknown is the MCG and how that's going to play out. Obviously, Collingwood's support is massive. It's I think Craig McRae talks about it a lot. It's like they have an extra player at times. So that home ground advantage, could become really relevant. They're two pretty contrasting styles. It's a little bit. I saw a really good article just before. It's a little bit like control and chaos. Brisbane like to control the ball. They like to exhaust uncontested marks and build the ball up that way. They'll still go quickly off turnover when it's there, but they generally like to get some control over the ball. Where Collingwood, probably off the Richmond model, where McRae was in the past, and Lepage, like that chaos game. They like the ball to remain in motion. They like teams to make decisions under pressure, because it brings into play Collingwood's ability to pressure the opposition and to hurt them off the back of turnover.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Look, last week, Collingwood v GWS, 97,412 fans crammed into the MCG, which, as you said, as Craig McRae said, it probably adds an extra dimension, if not player, to the whole context. And just to put into context, so Collingwood back in round 4 lost at the Gabba to Brisbane with 33,500 odd fans. And then again in round 23 at Marvel, where there was 38,000 fans. So the Brisbane team is now got to play in front of, probably in excess of 100,000 on Saturday. What sort of impact is that going to have on the Lions?
Probably touched on it before. But, at the end of the day, they're not out there kicking it or handballing it for you. So, you need to be able to put that to the side. It's probably what I said before about, about Lee and the boy in the bubble. You get to choose what you let in and what you let out. So, obviously the crowd and that sort of stuff, you got to be able to, to keep your
compartmentalise.
Your mind focused on the task at hand. So, Brisbane have been doing that well. The ground, the dimensions, the crowd. That's probably, you're right. It's probably the unknown for Brisbane, because their form's stacked up pretty well against Collingwood, and they do have the ability to be able to put scores on teams and to get run-ons. Interesting.
All right, Lukey. I mean, it's been a long episode. We've taken enough of your time. Before we let you go, who's your pick for Saturday, and who's winning Norm Smith?
Oh, geez, I'll go the Lions. I'll go the Lions to win.
Is that bias or smarts?
No, well, I have to. I have to. But it's a club that it's funny when you work at a club. So in the prelim, I was all Carlton. Like it in terms of sentimental, when you work for a club, you're so invested in the moments and in the people that you work with and what's going on in front of you and living in the present that you don't really have time, to be able to think about, your past club and what's happening there. So, but I've shifted a little bit over the last few days, and I'm on the Lions bandwagon now. And Norm Smith, who's the umpires voting, or who votes for Norm Smith?
There you go. Tony just decided he just needed to tune out.
He's probably. I was about to ask him if there was a cashy, if he was putting up a bit of cash for this because it's probably gone over a bit. But But I don't really want to be investigated by the ATO. But Norm Smith, I'll go. Who will I go? I'll go Dean Coleman. Played really well against us last week and gave him lots of rebound off the half back line.
Awesome. All right, he's come back. Welcome back, Tony.
You're back.
Hey, did we work out who Luke thinks is going to win the Norm Smith?
I thought you might have been skipping the country, Tony, because I was gonna hit you up for a cashy.
Well, the ATL will be listening, Luke.
No, exactly. No,
All right, then.
No cashy here.
Let's wrap it up. All right. Thank you very much, Lukey. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We wish you all the best. Go the Lions. We'll catch you all next week on Raw Sport. Take care,
Luke.
everyone.
Thanks, Ahmed. Thanks, Tony. See you later.